Hello. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the general session about sales and the roadmap for sales. We have 45 minutes to take you through something that should have taken us like an hour and a half at least. So I'm going to run pretty kind of quickly through it. We have other session coming up during the week, so you can go and do some deeper dive on certain stuff. And we also have a huge team here from the sales product team that can support on any type of questions and stuff that you need. So just for you to know, we're ready to take your question as, once we're finished. We're going to try and kind of take you through a bird's eye view of everything that we do, again, across this release and some kind of insights into what's coming next. And then proceed from there to the more deep dive sessions during the week. So my name is Amit. I'm running PM org for Sales AI, and with me on stage, Miriam, who drives some of our key capabilities around Sales AI. And so when we look kind of at the domain of sales in general, and we try to see who is it that we're solving for and how exactly this whole kind of comes together, and you talk to salespeople in general and you look at the overall picture, you'll find that they spend their time in kind of this siloed experience today, regardless, by the way, what CRM they use. They have obviously CRM where they, it's kind of a system of data. They input data, they get something out of it if there's enough data in there. They use, generally if you're in the Microsoft family, then, you use our offering around Exchange and Office, and, you do document management over there. And so that's a big chunk of the work. And then lastly, you usually, at least, these days, as a salesperson, you spend a significant time over it. It's, your preferred social network. It could be a professional one. It could be one of the, more personal social network. But in any case, you spend time there and you interact and you build kind of your own brand there. So when we look at this overall, package of Dynamics on the one hand, Office and LinkedIn, I think you definitely can, one can understand that we're sitting on top of, a significant amount of data that if you just bring together and start telling a story on top, you can do really tremendous stuff, empowering salespeople to be really, really good in what they do. And that's how we try to look at our team in general. We're thinking about ourselves as like this, we're in the domain of sales awesomeness. We want to make salespeople really good in what they do through the, usage of those systems. So we start connecting those dots. We are basically looking at what the Microsoft graph is all about, right? Connecting all of those things together. So it's going to be easy to deploy solution on top of it, read that data, and then start providing, context-aware scenarios that are, piped by those interaction. And a few kind of, examples is, relationship health, knowing what's kind of the health of the relationship you have with a specific customer. I'll go a bit deeper into that and explain that more. Get some alerts that something has changed, right? LinkedIn has tremendous amount of data about, people changing companies and role change and all of that, piping this back in and, triggering some action as a result of that. Collaboration, and, you could see where we're going with this. So there is a bunch of significant amount of scenarios that could be basically light up by those data points. When we look at the overall pillars that we spend our time on and invest in as a sales, as a SFA product, we have kind of 5 main pillars that are going with us from release to release, and we always try to make sure that within each of them, we're spending enough time and we light up those experiences and improve them over time. We have obviously fundamental work that we're doing all the time. I'm going to touch base on a bit of what we did now and what's more investment going on there. We're spending tremendous time on the user interface and user experience in general. I'll touch on that. We have kind of a new pillar, but very, very significant for us, the intelligence pillar. Much of the presentation, or big chunk of the presentation, is going to focus on that and what exactly we're lighting up through that experience. Relationship selling, of course, Microsoft, one of the Microsoft most strategic assets is the LinkedIn asset, and the whole integration and partnership there is a big amount of work for us. And then we'll touch lately on something that is almost second to our nature, and that's the productivity story and the whole connection between Office, Dynamics, and the whole family, and how we make people more productive through that usage. So when it comes to kind of fundamentals, I don't want to call too much the obvious. There is like certain work that is just, it's part of doing business. There's no way around it, right? And like accessibility is a good example. These days, if you ship a product that is not completely accessible and not, enabling any type of person to use it, then you're by definition doing something wrong, and we don't want to do something wrong. So that's was a big investment for us to basically take the entire UI, build it from scratch, make sure that everything there is completely accessible. And so that work has already been completed and now is there. GDPR support, I think again, two faces to that. Sometimes you look at this as more of a regulatory aspect that you just need to facilitate. But there's also like a huge advantage, I believe, in the ability to allow companies to support their scenarios, support GDPR through their scenarios by our system. I met with a bank few months back that looked at this and said, this is not just something that we need to meet, it's actually a value proposition that we sell to our customers. We say, hey, now you are, this ability to be forgotten, this ability to say, I don't want you to store my data, and we can, in one click, take away everything out of CRM. That was an important feature for them, even as an external thing. And then lastly, the whole story of everything needs to be, easy to be serviced, everything needs to be performant, everything just needs to work where you need it to work. Significant amount of our time is just spent on making sure that all of that is there when it comes to the cloud offering that we ship, to customers. When it comes to user experience, I think we kind of gone through already a few iterations of defining, talking about UCI and what UCI brings, so I'm not going to spend much time on this. If anybody has questions or wanting to learn more, you're more than welcome to come and talk to us. I think the main part for us is that UCI was a journey so far, so we kind of transitioned some part of the load to UCI, and then gradually more. Most enterprises are still using the, kind of the legacy client and have yet, finished the transition. For us, as a general statement, UCI is the client of the future. Everything is going to be moved there. We're basically aiming that by the next few months, you're going to have a complete parity between UCI and the web client, and at that point, it's going to be a full migration for customers, hopefully to that client, and get all of the value that this client is kind of having. And then now I want to move into the kind of the main course. Let's talk about intelligence a bit and kind of explain a bit how Microsoft looks at it. I know we're not the first session and definitely not the last session that is going to talk about AI and how we bring AI to the, to organization. But I think one of the pieces that we're trying to put always in context is how the bigger Microsoft AI story is coming to play when it comes to sales scenario and where exactly we believe Microsoft has a value proposition that is unmatched by any other real competitor in our scale, in our domain, in the SFA domain. So obviously Microsoft is looking at the bigger picture. Microsoft, when it comes to AI, is looking not just about organization, but also developers and and people, consumers, and how do we put on the table an offering that kind of takes care and is focusing on everybody. When it comes to specifically the part of our organization, obviously, it's more about how do we enable companies to do more with AI and how we take that type of technology and make it accessible, across, that every seller, every sales manager can use AI and they're not feeling threatened by AI. They're not feeling that, AI is way too complex. In the end of the day, it's just about kind of harnessing this type of technology and helping them drive the outcome they're trying to generate. And when you look at AI in general and you try to think, okay, what makes some company, good in AI? Because everybody explains AI, everybody talks about AI. Almost any technology you'll see out there is, referencing AI somewhere in the name because it's that's the new, tech bon ton. I think that when you look at it generally and you try to think how you make AI be really, effective, you need to think about three classes of work streams. So one, you need to have you definitely need a best-in-class type research. So using, the type of algorithm that produce the best outcome is not just it's not just an open source, put it in the cloud, spin some stuff in, and then make it work. Because that's, every startup can do that. That's not going to be the part that's going to make, your company be very successful in deploying those scenarios and actually using them. So you need an actual research body that can go and try and solve certain problem with the usage of, that technology. And this is a big piece. There's very few companies out there that actually can do that type of research. Microsoft is one of them. There's few others that actually have those type of department with this type of size, with that magnitude of capabilities. And then the next part is you need more than just your regular CRM data, because CRM data, if you have enough of it and you put enough into your system, has a lot of value. But most of those scenarios, or a lot of those scenarios, can be much stronger and be much more comprehensive if you use other sources of data. So we mentioned LinkedIn as one. Obviously, Office, right? The Office graph and the information that lies there. If you bring all of that together, if you bring information that's a search engine like Bing can provide and pull that into the story, then you start telling a story of real technology in action and driving outcome based on a lot of signals that can help you be much more accurate than what a salesperson without it can't be. And the last thing, when it comes to deploying those scenarios, so you have research, great, you have like amazing algorithm, then you have immense amount of data and like from a varied resource. All of that is great, but if you don't have a training place, if you can't really take those algorithms and start training them on top of actual scenarios that you're trying to deploy, none of that will really matter. You're not going to make the impact that you want to make. And that's another unique scenario for Microsoft. We are also one of the biggest sales organization in the world, right? We have an amazing sales organization of our own, and so we can train all of that. All of those models, and I think you'll see it throughout throughout the process. Most and almost all of the major feature we have there in our roadmap, and even coming into the future, are stuff that we're already trying internally first. We are making sure that our sales team is using this. We use that to see how well we are performing, and only after that we start driving those, to our customers. And so with that, I want to start talking features. So enough fluff. Now let's move into some actual features. So I don't know, how many of you already know some of those features, but we want to call them out because in, separate sessions in the past, it wasn't very, not everybody knew about them. So we have 3 features that were shipped, generally 5 features that were shipped. 3 are already generally available, and 2 more are at public preview right now. Those features, we shipped them last April. And we have some amazing capability there. So the first feature is a feature called Auto Data Capture. It's basically a feature that tries to solve a big problem today in any CRM deployment, in any enterprise software deployment. And that's the problem of how do you get data in, right? So if users are using Outlook to send all of their emails, how do you make sure that this thing is keep on coming back into CRM? Now, one option is give them an Outlook client, which we do provide them. But they're not going to track stuff all the time. The second thing is to try and think for them what email might be connected. So if they have an email, if that might be connected to some entity in CRM, why not just bring it in, show it in the context, and then ask them, do they want to save it back? And so that's what Auto Data Capture is doing. Basically, goes into Exchange Land, bring all of the emails. Through smart matching, we match those to the right entities in CRM, and then allow the salesperson to say, yes, share this, save this back to CRM, in the context of the CRM UI. Second feature here is a feature called Email Engagement. Email Engagement is a feature that tries to take stuff that were, type of technology that usually is available only for marketers, for people that usually send emails in mass and want to track what happened to that email after they send it to, potential prospects. And then bring that data back to the salesperson so he can make some decision and take actions based on that. So a few examples would be, you sent an email to a customer with a proposal. You want to know when the customer actually opened that email, and if there was an attachment, did they actually open that attachment? Or if there was a link, have they clicked on that link and navigated somewhere, and all of that thing. And you don't want this to be just something that you need to track. You probably want this to be proactive. You want this thing to alert you that right now is probably the best time to call that person because they just opened the proposal you sent them and you want to follow up on this. So email engagement does all of that for you and helps you stay on track of those communication channels, see what's exactly going on there. And then relationship assistant, probably the biggest feature of what we shipped so far. Think about this as this kind of sales-related assistant, the assistant that keep on following up for you. This assistant today has 38 different type scenarios that it supports. And examples would be anywhere from you have a meeting coming up on your calendar, and we just the assistant is going to prompt you to learn more about the opportunity, the contact stuff going on there. To you have an opportunity in your pipeline. And we just receive an email, and that email have a bad sentiment to it, so it might infer a risk to your opportunity, and you might want to take an action. So big variety of scenarios that assistant keep on looking at what's next for you, what is it that you need to think about, and keep on reminding you and keep putting stuff in context so you can make take actions on that. And we have some progress, or we have a bit more coming for that assistant in the next release as well, so I'll call it up in a second. Another kind of big feature is a feature called relationship analytics, and relationship analytics is looking at a domain that generally we used to think about more as kind of a soft skill related aspect, right? It's how do you manage your relationship? We just assume salespeople know how to manage relationship, and we just send them out there to keep on building relationship. And if you look at the sales domain broadly, you'll say that salespeople are generally building relationship and then maintaining relationship, right? That's what you do on a sales type engagement. Relationship analytics try to look at this domain of relationship and quantify it, put some KPIs on top of it, and make it less, fluffy and more precise, and say, okay, what type of relationship do I have? Now, at no mean this is replacing, a salesperson assessment of the relationship, but it does help, you as a salesperson, and definitely, the bigger org, to understand where we might have problems. And I'll give you an example, right? If you ask 99% of, if you ask 100% of salespeople about how good of a relationship they have with their customers, you'll probably get like 90%, 99%, depends, that says they have a very good relationship with their customers, which is fair, they probably do. But sometimes those relationships are not being maintained as much, because right now they're focusing on only certain opportunities and they're not following up on others. And when you start looking at those correspondents, and you start looking at the channel of communication, and you're seeing how much communication is happening on a specific opportunity with a specific account, with a specific contact, you can start identifying that maybe, you have something in your pipeline, like an opportunity, but there's no communication there. Nobody is really, engaging with anybody. Or you sent emails, but nobody's replying. Or you're spending a lot of time on those, on those phone calls and, an interaction, but nobody on the other side is actually replying as much, or being as much, being as connected to that as you are. And so all of that is coming under relationship analytics, and we have, a pretty sophisticated way of ramping all of that, building some KPIs, and then, you can basically break it down and see exactly why, certain relationship might be at risk, or, not be as strong as you would expect it to be. And then we did the first, first feature related to predictive scoring with lead scoring. If you look at leads in general and how people are kind of, a sales organization is trying to interact with leads, usually find that they have a lot of leads in the system. It's really hard for them to, kind of infer what are the right leads to follow up on. Where do I want to spend my time versus, leads that are basically just junk, and it's a waste of my time to even interact with. And predictive lead scoring is an AI-based model that looks at all of your leads in the system and just gives you a score. It tells you, okay, this is probably more likely to be closed, so you probably want to spend your time on those leads and spend less time on other leads that might be, less likely to be closed as win. So far, so good. We had, a bunch of features. All of them, or generally speaking, most of them were focusing on the salesperson persona. So if you look at, we call that salesperson Nancy internally. If you look at Nancy, she got pretty empowered. She has, a bunch of features that are focusing on trying to help her, drive more outcome, be on focus on the opportunity that she's that she's managing, identify risk, see where she has good relationship and where relationship might be poor, and trying to help her kind of cancel some of the noise when it comes to predictive models. And all of that is great, but we wanted to do more, for Nancy. And in this upcoming release, we're gonna launch a bunch of new features. I'm going to talk about them briefly. The only one that I want to call out in this screen before I move to the next one is extensibility model for the assistant. As I mentioned before, the relationship assistant has a significant amount of capabilities already, but one of the things that we got as feedback from a lot of customers and ISVs is the fact that there might be scenarios that are unique to your company. In general term, we hope you have scenarios that are unique to your companies, because that's your secret sauce. That's what makes you more successful. We want the assistant to support that, and so with the next release, we're basically going to allow you to start injecting your own scenarios into the assistant. You can basically use that surface and then prompt the right stuff for your salespeople with the right scenarios that fit your company based on whatever models you want to drive. And so what else is coming for the salesperson persona? So we talked about lead scoring before as a mechanism of canceling some of the noise, getting to know what is the lead that you want to focus on, and staying kind of on top of it. We bring the same type of logic and the same type of model now to opportunity scoring, with the idea of identifying risk there. So you can start looking at your pipeline and see exactly, where you might have some risk, where you might have an opportunity that you believe, or you're getting information that is highly likely to be closed, but there is some certain risk there that you need to be aware of. So opportunity scoring is coming this fall. Another feature that is focusing on productivity and helping you be more productive. If you think about a lot of the input information that you put to CRM today, after a phone call, after a meeting, it's basically, you go and type some blob of text and you put it back in CRM as a note, as a timeline, note. In any of those scenarios, it's usually just been saved to CRM as a blob of text. You don't have the follow-up. You don't have the action item as a result of it. And so notes analysis try to do exactly that for you. We read through those texts, and we infer from it what action item you wanted to take out of it. And then you can see basically in context the ability to create, that type of activity in CRM. So A, you won't forget it. It's going to be saved back in CRM. And B, it's just going to be less work for you. So it's much easier to create those activities and follow-ups in CRM as a result. We have another very strong feature called Who Knows Whom. What we do with Who Knows Whom is that we look at exchange data, and we look at the graph that kind of connects people in exchange, and we try to see who in your company might know a specific customer that you're trying to sell to, and then let you know that you can get in touch with him to get him to help you get in touch with this customer. Now, obviously, you all know that LinkedIn has certain similar capability, and the idea here is to augment both those stories together. Now, in this release, they're a bit disjointed, but over the next few months, we're going to connect those two, and so you have the broader circle out of LinkedIn, because let's be honest, right? LinkedIn has a lot of great connection, but not all of them are connection you can use right away. They're not working connection like, the one we have in Office. But then you have the smaller circle of people in your company that actually have working relationship with somebody, and you want to leverage that as part of getting to a new lead or just, contacting a stakeholder in a company. So this is Who Knows Whom. And then the last point is talking points, kind of augmenting the story. Talking points is just going into your exchange data, pulling some insight out of the last communication or some of the communication you had with a specific customer, and then kind of recommend to you that you can, build on top of this. So, for instance, if that person that you were corresponding with mentioned the fact that they're going to some game, then maybe it's going to be a good idea to start the next conversation saying, hey, how was the game that you gone to, and stuff like that. So talking points is, again, inferring from your email about stuff that you might want to talk about, and then showing you that in context. And so this is the broader kind of story we have for the sales persona. And so it's not just going to be talk and no demo. I'm going to transition over to Miriam to show you some of this great tech in action.
All right, hi. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I'm going to show you how Nancy, the salesperson, is now going to use all these cool features to help her through her day. So as Nancy, I started off potentially in my day of like, okay, what are all my opportunities? I have a bunch, so which ones should I focus on? So predictive opportunity scoring is going to help me with that by providing that score directly on my list of opportunities. So I can see here, I have 3D printer purchase opportunity, which has like an okay score, but I see, okay, it's also declining. So to kind of, I want to make sure that all my opportunities actually come to a sale, because that's what I'm going to be measured on. So by drilling into it, I can actually start seeing more information about why this opportunity might have a better or declining score. I get like a bunch of information. What are some of the factors that went into it? I see again the relationship assistant that tells me things I should know about this opportunity, like it's closing soon, and I see that the relationship is poor and kind of steady, but I'm guessing that's probably meaning that if I don't work on that relationship soon, I will not win this deal. So to just work on that relationship, I'll drill into the contact itself and see if there's some tips or tricks I can do in order to start that relationship or go make it better. So again, similar to what we just saw as part of the new features, here's some of the icebreakers or talking points I have for this person. So if I guess the best way for me is to just try and reach out to them again, but what should I talk about? So the icebreakers will help me with that, like for example, talking about the basketball game, or actually that they met my brother, so that could be a good conversation starter. If that doesn't help me to just reconnect and restart that relationship to finally close my opportunity, I have the Who Knows Who feature that can help me maybe bring in another person, have like another connection. So when I click on it, I can see, for example, let's say has a very strong connection to this person, to Adrian. So maybe he can help me restart it and help me close it. So after I connected with this contact, I want to maybe take I met with them, so I want to take a note about my meeting. So I'm lazy, I just type it in. And when I add the node, I see the notes analysis that we shown earlier helps me actually now create the meeting. So it detects within my email and within my timeline, it connects, oh, there's like an action item. So let me click on it, actually ask me, hey, do you want to actually create a meeting or an appointment that you want to have with Adrian? So yeah, I can go right in here and create it, and I'm done. So hopefully now I'm closing my opportunity quicker and successfully. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. So moving forward, we talked about the whole this whole pile of technology and amazing feature that we have there for the Nancy persona, and I think we did a tremendous work on kind of taking what used to be a system for manager, which CRM in the past was mainly about salespeople working for manager to sync data, and kind of transfer this. Say, okay, now it's not about that. It's about you as a salesperson seeing value from the system and do better sales through using CRM. But on the way, we kind of forgotten, I think, a bit that we have a manager persona, and it's a very important persona when it comes to the sales domain. He's managing pipeline, managing team. He has a lot of certain problems, or that needs help to be resolved or to be better in that. And with this next release, with the fall release, we're doing exactly that. We're changing that story, and we're starting to say, okay, now it's not just about the sales persona. We're going to we basically are building or exposing a new experience for sales managers, and that new experience for sales manager is now going to help the sales manager drive through some of the core problems or core areas that the sales manager spends his time on. So first of all, this whole app was designed from this notion of how do we create as much of a one-page application as we can. So we know in general when it comes to any type of sales persona, but definitely a manager, time is is of an absence, right? They don't have time to start going and navigating and finding the information they need. The information needs to kind of come at them. It needs to almost tell them what, where they have problems and where they need to spend their time. So Miriam is going to show you that in a second. We obviously have a very, significant kind of focus on pipeline management, revenue, risk. How do you identify all of that? That salesperson, that sales manager is also obviously a team manager, so how can he understand his team better, see the capabilities, see exactly where they have problems, and risk in his team's performance, and then, helping weaker sales, people be better in what they do and kind of improve over time. And then the last part, which is kind of an experience of its own, but right now is going to be part of the manager persona, and over time we're going to move that also to the salesperson. It's a new capability around call intelligence. Basically, if you're running a call center, you probably know that. It's really hard to understand what's going on in those communication that's happening with those customers. Today, it's almost flying blind in most of those call centers. And what call intelligence allows you to do is basically to point us to the call repository you have as part of recording your calls. And then we're going to start lighting up a bunch of insights about what's going on in those conversations. Anywhere from sentiment in those conversations to, what keywords are being used and how often they're being used. And then also how well your salespeople are performing from perspective of, how long are they spending talking in a meeting, in a conversation with a customer versus listening to the customer and such type technology. Very much focused on how you basically can train people and make them, improve their performance over time. As a sales representative on phone. And so to demo all of that, I'm going to move to the next demo.
Yep. All right. I'm now switching hats a little bit. So now I'm the sales manager overlooking a set of inside sellers, trying to understand, hey, where can I spend my time best to actually make sure that me and my team are meeting my quota. So with the sales standalone experience, we get like an overview, like one pane of glass of all the things that are important for you. So for example, like in the beginning, you see all the actuals of what I'm actually meeting. Am I meeting my quota? I can drill into, in the same page, I can drill into all the information, all the data that I want to, and potentially take actions on top of them. There's also a set of information about my team. How's my team performing? So for example, who's doing good or not so good in terms of their quota? I can go in and see, oh, Eric's not doing so well. There's a big gap to his quota. So I can open his team or his card and understand, hey, what are the things that maybe in my next one-on-one or next time I meet him, I can talk to him about and understand what do we need to discuss so he can ramp up his game. So there's a few insights I have here, and I wanted to specifically call out the sentiment here. So Amit just mentioned the feature around call intelligence. So within our AI for Sales, you can upload your call data, and we are going to analyze or help you analyze parts of it and surface that to you so you understand better what is actually going on in all these sales calls. You cannot just don't need to go into every call and try to understand what is the issue that this salesperson might have or where can he improve. You can just see that right away. So here we can see that he had a drop in positive sentiment. So maybe something the way he was talking has changed, or maybe there's something I can talk to him about and help him get up to speed again. There's more information across my pipeline and, again, also across my team calls, so I can drill more and more deeper into that if I like. Again, similar to what we've shown on the sales representative side, you can also see, like, we show you some highlights that we find inside of your system that might be interesting for you to understand how your work is doing. So for example, Ryan won a deal, that's great. So I can actually, from here, I can again drill into it, see what are some of the details of this deal. I can reach out to Ryan and tell him, hey, congratulations, that's really awesome. I get information of my upcoming time with people in my team or news that might be relevant for me. If there's something in my in this page that I might not something else that I would like to find, but it's not on there, we integrated a Q&A system. So if you like, you can just open it, if it likes me today. And it will ask you and be able to answer any questions that you like. So for example, which accounts have the most open opportunities? So it goes in, understands my data, and puts in what are the most accounts with the most opportunities. Well, right now it's not necessarily the opportunities that are important for me, but which salesperson have the most opportunities. I can just change the question and basically ask anything that I want. We have some suggested ones, but you can basically ask almost anything. And you can then, once I know which salesperson has the most opportunities, I can see, oh, John and Yassine have the most, so maybe I should actually talk to them if that's too much or not, so I help them again coach and be better, and hopefully make sure that my team achieves their quota and I achieve my quota as well. So yeah, that concludes that new sales manager experience.
All right. So continuing with our journey, we talked about sales intelligence. Let's talk about relationship selling and this whole, immense connection and immense value that we can bring from connecting to LinkedIn. So far in the market, we had a bunch of capabilities around basically bringing LinkedIn data, pulling that in the context in CRM. The way we kind of looked at it was just, taking a bunch of UI from LinkedIn and just embedding this in CRM. And I think, it had its value, but it definitely wasn't, two systems that are well connected together. It was more about, one system just popping up in the other system. We had also some sync capabilities and write back capabilities from LinkedIn back to CRM, all really important stuff that can help you drive scenarios, but again, still a bit kind of disjointed. Going into this, next release and forward, we basically did a large amount of work with LinkedIn to break those control up and make them, embeddable in context. So now you can take up a specific scenario where LinkedIn might bring value to whatever you're trying to do and embed that in that context of that scenario. So it could be as part of the process. It could be in the context of something in the form. You can now go into a much granular level of integration and start telling a story where LinkedIn data is kind of augmenting your CRM data in a way that helps, drive whatever it is that you're trying to drive. And so this whole, new and improved LinkedIn capability is a very strong, I think, story with those two systems coming together. Another capability that is going to come a bit into the future, and we're kind of working on it, is this whole idea of how do I do stakeholder management as part of, as the sales operations. As you probably well aware of, stakeholder management is a big piece of opportunity management in general, and obviously opportunity management is what sales is all about. And definitely when you talk about B2B scenarios, complex organization, this whole idea of how do I see a map of who is it that is on the buyer side, how do I connect all of that, all of those together, and then how do I get information on top of it? We're going to start building this org chart for you, based on LinkedIn information, allow you to see contact from LinkedIn on top of that, that stakeholder org chart, and then also show you the strength of the relationship that you might have with a specific contact in that, in that view. So now you can start seeing the whole stakeholder view and then exactly understand where you have problem in your map. Who is the people that you're not talking to as part of that opportunity and you might want to start talking to, because otherwise you're at risk of, losing that opportunity. So a very strong capability coming up as part of that. And then, just heading to the closing. The ability to collaborate, right? I talked about it before. I said it's almost a second nature to how Dynamics is thinking about sales. And it's true because we used to focus, predominantly about how we bring Office into CRM, but we still do that very, in a significant way. And what we want to call out is like a few capabilities around it. So first of all, we just released to market, and we're going to keep improving this with time, a capability called Playbooks. And Playbooks is trying to look at how do we take a scenario that might happen in a specific opportunity that you manage, in a lead that you just get as part of an account management, and automate this. Allow you to start setting up the type of activities and interaction you expect salespeople to follow, and then track this and see that they actually follow up on all of the things that they needed to do. A good example would be you're running an opportunity and a main stakeholder just left the company. Okay, how do you tackle this? How do you make sure that everybody's following some, pattern of interaction and do the same type of repeatable success stories so, it's not becoming one-offs that some people knows how to deal with certain scenarios and others don't. And so Playbooks is a strong story around this, and you're going to see us over time building this in much more connected way to the relationship assistant. So now the assistant can start, piping those playbooks based on something that happened, some action that you probably want to take as part of your team. So playbook. And then the second piece, which is a very strong and big amount of work that we've been doing around connecting dynamics and teams. Teams is the place where salespeople spend their time when they want to collaborate and talk, and that's a big piece of what they do. And so we want to make sure that in that context of teams, they have this full capability of engaging CRM, taking actions, and doing a lot of, doing basically anything they could do on, on the regular CRM client. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Miriam to demo you.
Yeah. All right. So actually, we're going to demo not what he's just shown, but we also integrated as part of Teams a assistant or bot into it. So basically, the scenario is I'm a salesperson I'm on the road, and I get a text message maybe from my colleague saying, hey, I just heard from this customer that he really loved your presentation. Let's just update that into your system. So what I can do, I open Teams, I go into the bot. I can just say, hey, start typing and adding, start a conversation. I get some information from the bots like, hey, what do you want to talk about, or what do you want to do? So I don't know the exact name of the opportunity, so I just go, hey, what are my top opportunities? I'll drill into one of the opportunities, audio equipment, because that's what it was about. The bot now goes in and finds it for me and say, hey, here's some information about this. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to update maybe the close date? Do you want to update the amount or create a post? So I want to create a post. So it was interesting that he liked the presentation, so actually that's what I want to add to it. So let's see if that works. All right, James liked the presentation. So yeah, I can update the information. And just like that, change it and add it to the dynamics. With that, actually, now I updated the opportunity. I added a node without even needing to go into dynamics. It's safe there. I can go now back to the nodes analysis and just create whatever I want with it. And so, yeah, we're not just integrating Teams like that, but also like this. And you can actually go and see a more detailed demo of this tomorrow. All right.
Thank you. So yeah, the last piece there that Miriam just showed you, again, this idea of it's not just about seeing CRM in Teams, but also being able to start, as a team, using a bot interface, kind of driving action quickly on the go from your mobile device. And then again, in the background, we still have all of that AI model that runs and read that data and, drive action out of it. So, the full circle is there. Yes, and with that, we wanted to leave some time for you to ask questions. And also, we want to tell, share with you, there is a bunch of really good sessions coming up. And we kind of encourage you guys to go and get a deeper dive on certain pieces of this offering. Yes, and with that, we're going to open for question. Yes, please. Yeah, good question. So yes, we're coming to market with basically a new SKU. That SKU is coming on top of the enterprise sales SKU. We're going to get a bunch of some of those capabilities. So the capabilities I showed as GA, they are staying as part of the enterprise offering. So you get them as part of just buying sales. And then if you want more of those capabilities, then you're going to buy the added SKU, and then you're going to get all of those to light up in your environment. Yes. Generally, we believe this is an amazing, value, and so, with value, there is some cost aspect to it as well. More questions? Yes?
So how do you get the data go into the cloud, into your on-premise AX?
So, yeah, I think you're referring to what type of data you want to pull back into AX.
Well, I want to get AX data up into this system, and this system we get AX data down. So I want to be able to deal with on-prem AX.
Yeah, fair enough. So there is a connector between AX and CRM, and that connector, to the best of my knowledge, work on both, on-prem and on cloud. So you can run this connector, on your environment and connect it to the CRM on cloud. And then you can basically connect those two systems and make them, work. Is that the scenario that you're talking about?
Yeah, and how often does that run? Is that a continuous run, or is that?
Yeah. Do you remember if that it's just a batch process, but.
Data integration. There's actually a move data integration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we could, you could go a bit deeper there, but generally, listen. Yes, any more questions? Go on, go for it.
So we're running AX CRM 2011. What's the level of difficulty when we go to the cloud?
You're running AX?
No, we're running CRM.
CRM 2011. Yeah, so you're going to need to go through an upgrade process on the on-prem environment first, get it to the last version. There's going to be, this UI change. There's, a lot of work that you probably did there. So there is a full upgrade story that you need to follow. But then, there is a tool that we already created that allows you to take, CRM data that you have on-prem and just move it to the cloud. So that piece is probably there. What you're going to need to spend most of the time is about rethinking about some of the customization you did on 2011 and how exactly to move them into 2018. The big piece is usually some stuff that you did on 2011, you did just because you didn't have out-of-the-box capability to do that. And now it's just not going to make, it's not going to be relevant to move them. You just want to use the out-of-the-box capabilities.
So there's no migration tool.
There is a migration tools, definitely. It's there. I'm just saying that you don't want to do just a lift and shift. You want to see what functionality actually was, like customization that you did was a functionality that was missing and now is existing, and then you're just going to use out of the box for that. And then what is still missing in that part you want to move, just lift and shift, basically. So there is some work of kind of doing a gap analysis there. No, not necessarily. Depends on how complex it was. There is certain scenarios where it could be a very kind of short process to do. There is some places where you did like an immense amount of work, did a bunch of stuff that are currently, part of the product, and you just don't want to move them as is. You want to improve them and use the out-of-the-box capabilities. So it depends on the scenario, basically. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy your good night.
Oh, yeah.